Okay, we're live. Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's Discovery Day live stream for today, November 12th, 2020. We got two great companies to bring to today. We have Empower Clinics, CBDT on the CSE. They'll be followed by Valeo Pharma, VPH on the CSE. They both have US tickers, which they're not as active just yet. So we'll stick with the Canadian tickers for now. Again, for any those of you who are new to our program, our goal is to bring you stocks which have 10x to 100x upside potential. So these are companies which are going after big multi-billion-dollar market opportunities. They're right now at key inflection points, right at that threshold of explosive growth, and they have multiple catalysts in place which could ignite a significant transformation in shareholder value. We've had numerous successes with this kind of approach in the last 12 months at least. You've seen a lot of 10 baggers, 5 baggers, 20 baggers. So today we're going to find out if Empower Clinics and VPH are going to be our next 10 bagger stocks. As always, the format for today is going to be CBDT is going to be on first. And Steve is going to do his presentation, and then we're going to open up for questions. So it's really your questions are really what make these events special. So please check out the presentation, ask your questions to Steve, and then decide for yourself if this is going to be our next 10x to 100x winner. So with that said, let me turn it over to Steve. Steve, you there? Okay, Steve, welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate being on the show again.
Steve, good to have you back. I'm going to turn it over to you, and you could take it from here.
Hey, very good. Well, thank you. And thank you to your audience and everybody participating today. So I'm just going to briefly run through our just newly ready to be published investor relations deck that really is starting to reflect the continued growth and direction of our company in the integrated healthcare space. So we're Empower Clinics, as Jack said. We are CSE listed. We also trade on the OTCQB and in Frankfurt. And we are what we refer to as an integrated healthcare company. And our purpose is, we believe that integrated healthcare is where our patients have access to the best of all worlds. And for us, that is really starting to bring together what we call paramedical services and starting to connect to primary care services. So we currently have 165,000 patients in our database through our clinics in the United States. We have been using telemedicine and technology extensively over the last couple of years. And of course, with the current state of the pandemic that's out there, telemedicine for us is more important than ever before. We have a world-class diagnostics laboratory based in Dallas, Texas. And we're supported by a great leadership team and a great set of practitioners, physicians, healthcare workers, and staff who really care about the patient experience. Our vision going forward is really a world where all people have access to an integrated healthcare experience. It deals with both prevention and problems, combines body and mind wellness, and we treat patients with both alternative and conventional medicine or care. So a general sort of summary for us is we're definitely positioning ourselves to be a leader in this integrated healthcare space. It's a remarkably large and fragmented market, and it's ripe for roll-ups and consolidation, where appropriate, whether it's in our operations in the US and our pending new operations in Canada. We definitely have an experienced board and leadership team, healthcare and finance and technology. And currently we transitioned, not even transitioned, we added a fairly big COVID-19 testing solution program. We commenced that as pilots through our clinics in the state of Arizona. It was a 4-phase rollout, and we're in phase 4, which is allowing us to really focus on helping companies get back to work, helping schools get opened again, dealing with patients who perhaps don't even have healthcare coverage, and give them access to COVID testing as required. I touched on the fact that our telemedicine and technology layer are really state of the art, and they are. We utilize telemedicine every single day in our clinics today, and it's going to be, again, a very important tool going forward for our delivery of integrated healthcare services. We should also let you know that there's other parts of our technology that are critically important every day. We have HIPAA compliant healthcare management tools. We have state-of-the-art outbound campaign tools such as email platforms, text message platforms. We have a call center to deal with both inbound and outbound calling to our patients. Another important aspect for me to talk about with the audience is we are operational in the US. It's where our core assets are right now. And we do have our expansions coming to other markets. But it's really important to understand that it's difficult to operate in the US under the regulatory frameworks of the United States if you're a newcomer. We are not a newcomer to the US market. In fact, we're very entrenched through our clinics themselves, through the laboratory that we have in Dallas. It's difficult for outside parties to come in and just try to figure out how to operate in the US. And I think it's very important for me to stress that to the audience, that we're entrenched there already, and our team are already healthcare experts, both on the clinic and on the laboratory side. Finally, in summary, is we are engaged in a very aggressive growth strategy. We are rolling up additional clinics both in the US and in Canada. We've just recently announced a pending acquisition in Canada that we think is going to be incredibly accretive to what we're doing. And of course, we had the laboratory acquisition that we just closed approximately a month ago. So generally speaking, from a business strategy, our mission is to create an integrated network of physicians and practitioners who serve patients' needs. We do it in clinics, through telemedicine, and with decentralized mobile delivery, meaning we go to where the patient needs us, not necessarily requiring the patient to come into one of our locations. So there's really two parts I'm going to talk about. First is health and wellness. So we have 6 clinics right now that operate in the US, with a hub sort of being in Phoenix, Arizona, but we're also in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon State, and in Washington State, where we serve those markets actually primarily through telemedicine, and we have a physical clinic in Portland, Oregon. And we're really trying to create a more accessible, simplified healthcare model. We offer prevention, diagnostics, treatment services, again, always focused on the patient. On the diagnostic and technology side, and I think of this sometimes also as research and development side. So we definitely are utilizing Chi Laboratory that we purchased about a month ago to really help us deliver more national scale on our COVID-19 testing initiatives. Through the combination of Chi Medical Laboratory and Sun Valley, on the ground, we have the ability to offer broad scale testing initiatives for COVID testing, and a whole variety of styles. The gold standard is the RT-PCR test that we're kind of all familiar with now, which is either the nasal or the throat swab. And in our lab, we have great capacity for volume, and that volume has been ramping up dramatically already since we made the acquisition itself. So with our clinics, the Sun Valley Group we acquired back in 2019, a very accretive transaction, generates solid top line revenue, cash flow positive. We have been, for the first half of 2020, positive cash flow from operations, and which, in itself, it seems like that's, what we would always expect. But a lot of times in the small and medium cap world, generating cash from operations is sometimes really just doesn't happen. So I think it's something that we pride ourselves on, is that ability to make sure that our clinic operations, do operate on a cash flow positive basis. So in addition to our 6 clinics that we currently have in October, we announced the intention or the non-binding term sheet to acquire a group called Momentum Health in Ontario, in the Greater Toronto area. So that acquisition will bring 7 new clinics to the group that are operating today. But there's a really extensive expansion beyond that, once we get through the closing, which we are in the final stages of right now. So there'll be more announcements coming in the not too distant future about the completion of that transaction, and then the follow-on announcements of what our expansion plans look like. These transactions, are really sum up kind of our aggressive growth plans, and for in the United States and in Canada, and we're very excited to add numerous more clinics over time. Chi Medical Laboratory in Dallas, Texas, was an acquisition that we closed about 1 month ago. I think it was October 6th, if I believe, and it really establishes that science and research side of our company. So the lab offers a wide array of services, whether it's hematology, hormone, endocrinology, toxicology type testing. Right now, with the given pandemic that we're in, our demand is greatest at the moment for our COVID-19 testing. So we are a high complexity certified CLIA and COLA accredited lab, which is a very important designation. Having that laboratory really has allowed us to take advantage of their capacity to process 4,000 specimens per day. We're seeing those numbers jump substantially, and it's really taking advantage of combining the on-the-ground clinic healthcare techs in locations like Arizona with the lab processing capability. And really, one without the other is not as efficient as putting the two together. And we've been able to already see accretive benefits from having the lab working directly day to day with the initiatives of the clinics in Arizona. So in 2020, we really have been kind of repurposing ourselves to be able to deal with the demand that's out there. We also announced recently a partnership with Loop Insights, which is bringing together really what is becoming kind of a critical combination, and that is you need to be able to do venue tracing or contact tracing in a really efficient technology-based manner. And so the combination of contact tracing initiatives and COVID testing initiatives are really, we're seeing industries that aren't even able to open unless these solutions could be brought to the table. So think of tourism, think of travel, think of airlines, think of Division I colleges, NC2A events that can't operate unless you can have contact tracing and testing initiatives combined. So we are really kind of bullish on the potential combination of this partnership with Loop Insights. They're bringing opportunities to us on the testing side. We're bringing testing solutions to them to enable them to sign new contracts as well. So again, a partnership that I think is very accretive to both groups. I want to touch just briefly on research and development and what this really means to us at this stage where the markets are. So Chi Laboratory have already been working on additional combinations of testing. So we have a test protocol underway that's coming to market shortly that we refer to as the Chi Medical ABC PCR test. ABC meaning this test protocol will test for influenza A, influenza B, and COVID in the same specimen. Again, it's a now in-demand test protocol, given we're entering flu season throughout North America. So we're excited for that one to be in market. We've also been participating in supporting clinical trials with other pharma companies for new versions of COVID tests, specifically COVID rapid antigen tests that are now currently submitted to the FDA for approval. And then we'll support additional submissions to Health Canada for these same sorts of protocols that we were involved in validating the quality of the test itself, but then we'll support actually helping get those tests approved under the guidelines of the FDA and also of Health Canada. Our talents, of course, are very important. I have a great team. We've got 55 active professionals on the ground today. That does not include any of the new growth opportunities with our Canadian acquisition. That's going to add quite a bit more staff to our organization. We have a large percentage of our staff are really healthcare professionals, whether that means physicians, practitioners, phlebotomists. We have COVID specialists, and all supported by a great leadership team that have diverse backgrounds in healthcare and finance, technology, and capital markets. Our board is made up of myself. I'm the chairman and CEO of our board. Andreas Bunksha is an attorney in Phoenix, Arizona. Great corporate experience, and incredibly supportive as our independent board member. Dustin Klein is our senior VP of business development. He was a co-founder of Sun Valley Health, the company, the clinic group that we acquired last year, and he's been a great experienced healthcare professional to support us on the board itself. Kyle Appleby is our CFO, based in Toronto. Tremendous capital markets experience. Andrea Klein is our VP of operations for the company. She's the other co-founder of Sun Valley Clinics, and she is very much an operations expert and a healthcare professional for numerous years. Yoshi Tyler is our president of Kai Medical Laboratory. Yoshi was the original founder of Kai and stayed on with us to bring incredible leadership in the lab diagnostics and the R&D side of our business. Just to touch briefly on kind of where we are in financials. We definitely are in growth mode. These numbers are in US dollars, not Canadian dollars, because we report in US dollars. I think the thing to be noted is really the traction that we started to gain coming out of 2019 and into 2020. And in spite of going into the pandemic environment that we're in, we continue to see very strong quarter-over-quarter growth. So Q4 of last year, we were up 217% over the prior Q4 of 2018. Our Q1 was up 416, and our Q2 was up about the same number as well. Our patient visits is another thing, I guess a KPI that we look at, because patient visits are such a leading indicator to our revenue. It's really almost a direct correlation. And in the first half of 2020, we were up significantly, seeing over nearly 12,500 patients in the first half of 2020 versus just 5,500 patients in the same period in 2019. Something that I look at very closely, and I want the audience to also think about this, and this is really about comps, comparables to the industry. And we look at sort of valuation versus TTM, so say trailing 12 months revenue, and we look at where we sit, and then we look at some quality peers that are out there both in Canada and in the US. You see, companies like Teladoc or Amwell or say, Well Health out of Canada. Everybody really getting incredibly strong multiples, up to the 30s, and in some cases as much as 40 times TTM, where we currently are sitting at 4 or 5 in that sort of range as a multiple. In my mind, as I think of an investment, opportunity, I think that our company, given that we're on the cusp of this, really explosive growth, particularly with the deals that we've set up, I really think that we are going to start to get rewarded with with better multiples. I mean, for goodness sake, if we were even to get half of those other multiples, it'd be a tremendous amount of growth for us from where we sit today. So I'm going to keep an eye on these comps. Watch them closely, measure ourselves against other high quality healthcare public companies in North America, and let's see how we perform on these multiples going forward. So just kind of bring things to a conclusion, kind of what we think about, why we're going to win is, we've got a leadership team that are dedicated They are professional. They ultimately care about the patient experience, and having that as a baseline really will translate into the opportunity to be a successful winning company going forward. We've got proven and established, healthcare operations in the U.S. We know what we're doing in the U.S. markets, and as Canadians, obviously, when we get these transactions closed in Canada, we know how to operate in Canada. But not to be underestimated is the technical requirements to operate successfully in U.S. healthcare is fairly significant. We think the R&D diagnostics and the COVID testing market are going to continue to be full of demand that we're going to continue to meet. And even as at some point, COVID testing requirements over the long term may start to slow down, but not anytime in the near future. I mean, we're a long way from vaccines that are actually even going to be available to distribute. And then ultimately, we can become a player in the distribution of vaccine over time because we have clinics, we have locations, we have physicians and staff who can help administer. Our technology layer continues to be very important. There'll be more coming on how our technology and artificial intelligence capabilities are going to come into play over time. We've got an aggressive rollout strategy for North America, and then fundamentally, I think that we're undervalued relative to the peers across North America in the public space. So I want to say thank you to the audience for listening to me right now. I try to be fairly crisp and succinct with the presentation, but I welcome any questions that the audience might have at this time.
Okay, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. All right, we got a bunch of questions coming in, so let's jump into the questions. Okay, Eric is asking, telemedicine stocks, excuse me, telemedicine stocks are hot right now. Do you plan to expand your telemedicine business?
Yeah, that's a very simple answer. The answer is yes on that. We recognize the importance of telemedicine and that aspect of the delivery of care to our patients wherever they may be. We utilize our telemedicine platform today, every day. And the platform that we utilize in the US today is completely replicable for Canadian market. So as we are able to close the transactions in Canada and continue that expansion, telemedicine will be part of that rollout and expansion across those markets like Canada and other markets in the US.
Okay, next question. Hami's asking, can you discuss where you are working with Loop Insights currently?
Where we're working with Loop Insights? Okay, so we are in discussions with other partnerships that Loop has brought to the table, and vice versa. We have put opportunities to Loop Insights. So we're working on opportunities together. They're working on their prospects. We're working on our prospects, and in each and every case, we're all talking about the need to combine contact tracing solution with testing solutions. So we have, really numerous conversations that are taking place right now with groups. The Loop programs, some of their first big ones are kicking off here in the month of November, and we would expect to be able to announce to the audience and to the market new deals in the not too distant future that will involve the combination of Loop Insights contact tracing technology with our testing capabilities.
Okay, Roland is asking, what's the market cap right now? You did a financing, so fully diluted. What's the?
We would be.
Sure.
Yeah, let me just. I haven't seen where we're sitting today, but we will be. I'm going to say in the range of 14 to 15 million as a market cap today.
Okay. Canadian or US? What is it?
That would be based on CSE pricing. So
Okay. Oh, so this is yes, pretty reasonable. Okay. I guess EPS book. I mean, I don't know. It's not. I don't know how the EPS. There's no PE yet, right?
No, there isn't. I mean, we have our third quarter financials coming out very soon, and so obviously we'll have an update there on things like EPS. We were at a loss, I believe, of approximately 4 cents per share in our year-end financials, if my memory serves correctly. And as I said earlier, in the first half results, we were positive cash from operations, including all corporate costs, which I thought was quite a nice milestone for us. So not only are we really driving these growth opportunities and investing in such, but our businesses generate cash from operations. We see patients every day, and those patients get billed every day. Chi Medical Laboratories contributions aren't even in the financials yet. So we're very excited to see those contributions for the fourth quarter of 2020, and obviously that will contribute to full year results as well. But those won't be published until in 2021.
Okay. Speaking of Kai, Eric is asking a follow-up question. You have said that Kai Lab can do 4,000 tests a day. Are you able to increase that number by having more shifts per day?
So the actual way that we would do it, I'll tell you where that math comes from. So we are able to process 2,000 specimens per 8-hour shift with the current equipment. So if we add an additional shift, that gets us to our 4,000. We have the space in the lab. And the lab is a beautiful lab right in the heart of the medical district of Dallas, Texas. We, from a capacity standpoint, if our demand is going over that 4,000 specimens per day, I will simply add additional machinery to run more volume. So if we were to take our existing machine and get another one that's identical, we would then be adding an additional 2,000 specimens per 8-hour shift, and then it's really about staffing and manpower to make sure that we can deal with the processing capacity. But the lab has the space to be able to add additional pieces of testing equipment to support future volume.
Okay, Dan is asking, you mentioned that the space is very fragmented. So what opportunities does this present to you? And he's also asking a follow-up question about, are you planning to acquire new labs, keeping up with the demand mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so the concept of fragmentation and rolling that up, we just see that in the markets that we serve, we see it in the markets that we pay attention to. And one of our great strengths is our ability to manage physicians and manage facilities and operations and HR. What it does when we bring physicians in, and let's talk about our paramedical services, so things like pain management, physiotherapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, et cetera, and to the extent that over time we connect that with primary care centers, and then potentially ultimately, we bring primary care on as well. So that our ability to effectively manage that sort of physician to patient supply chain is one of the reasons why physicians are attracted to coming into our model. They get to focus on the delivery of care, and that's it. We take care of all of the overhead administration, HR, accounting, finance, facility management aspects as a corporation, allowing that physician to really focus on what they do best as a specialist. The fragmentation is, there are literally thousands and thousands of individual clinics, whether you're a chiropractic clinic or a naturopathic clinic or you're an acupuncture. We just don't think that that's the most efficient model. The ability to bring those services together in a consolidated streamlined approach, we think makes a much more sense as a business model. The second part of the question was, are we looking at other labs, or are we looking for other labs? And again, the short answer is yes. We absolutely are. We don't have anything to announce at this point in time, but we certainly do believe that there are opportunities to look at lab acquisitions in other markets in the United States, because the U.S. market is just so large, and also in Canada itself. The market's not as large in Canada, but it's still a large market with a lot of revenue opportunity available, both on the lab R&D side and the delivery of patient care through clinics and telemedicine.
Okay, we got time for a few more questions. We're running a little behind, so let's do see if we can do 4 more questions here. Spence coming in with question number 1. Are you working with any airlines or cruise lines with your travel bubble rollout solution?
So the answer is we are in discussions. At this point in time, I can't provide any sort of announcement right now, but it's an industry, and you mentioned cruise lines, and you mentioned airlines. So we are in active discussions with both industries for various different programs, both on the Canadian side and on the US side.
We got a couple of people asking, how important is the recent legalization of several quote unquote substances this month to your growth in 2021?
Yeah, so we have been working extremely hard to really adjust what our sort of core revenues are. So if any of the audience looks back to the history of Empowered Clinics, it had a prior focus on medical cannabis certifications, and it was our board's opinion and my opinion that from a business model and a thesis, it ultimately is not a defensible business model to be solely focused on that service. If you let's take the state of Arizona as a perfect example. The state of Arizona historically has been a medical cannabis regulatory framework. In the recent U.S. election, the state of Arizona had a ballot that went through that will fully make cannabis fully recreational legal in the state of Arizona, and that implementation would be no later than April 1st of 2021. From the moment that that acquisition was closed back in 2019, we immediately started to work on diversification of services and revenue, with the anticipation that a ballot initiative like this would be coming through. I couldn't sit idly by and not anticipate that something like that could take place. So we have absolutely made a shift where our revenue dependency is no longer on that core service of medical cannabis consultations. Those services will exist in those clinics in the future, but it certainly will not be the primary source of revenue for those clinics going forward.
Okay, so kind of a related question. There was no, Justin saying there was no mention of psychedelics in the presentation. Are you discontinuing this side of the business?
No, we're not discontinuing. We, as you saw from the presentation, we definitely talk about mental health and what that's going to mean going forward. I know our strength in the future as it relates to mental health is going to be around access to patients and having clinic locations. So we will absolutely continue to focus on the significant need, and then the demand from a business standpoint on mental health, and how we leverage our strength in being a clinic operator. The delivery of the potential of psychedelic treatment options in the future is going to require physicians. It's going to require clinics. This is not going to be a recreational set of products in the future. It really demands physician care and physician monitoring in the utilization of those types of treatment options. So the fact that we are continuing to identify, clinic roll-up opportunities will actually position us to be as strong as anybody in the mental health sector going forward.
Okay, we're getting a bunch of questions, or I think we're almost out of time. We'll have to catch up with these. Okay, let's do one last question. So we have here we go. So Hemi's asking, are you planning to expand the lab side of the business into Canada?
So we are definitely looking at that. We're focusing first on getting, obviously, our clinic acquisition in Canada closed. We're in the final stages of legal documentation and the final due diligence. Everything is looking very positive. And once that's on the books and we have the leadership team and the staff now as wholly owned subsidiary, we are going to look to identify lab opportunities in Canada. Again, as I said earlier, we think that it's something that we like the way that the diagnostics capabilities connect with the clinics and the delivery of care to our patients. So we're definitely going to look for those opportunities.
Okay, you know what? I'll do one last question on it because we have several related, kind of related to this. So Justin was asking about, are you expecting any material contracts in the near future? Material COVID contracts? Are you expecting more COVID contracts? Is there any follow-up on the Disney testing that was announced last month?
Yeah, so our film and television testing initiatives are really going great. I've got some announcements coming up, so I'll have to be careful about sort of what I can say right now about that. We are seeing increased awareness and increased demand, and it's really this combination of having Kai Medical Laboratory on the testing side, and the audience needs to understand that being a high complexity CLIA COLA certified lab enables our clinic layer, Sun Valley Clinics, say in Arizona, to offer testing programs to businesses, consumers of all types. So not only are we able to do cash pay programs where, say, a consumer or a business just says, we need our employees tested and we'll pay for that now, but because we have the lab, and the lab has medical insurance billing contracts, Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield, having that ability to offer insurance support on the ground now enables Sun Valley Health, as an example, to run community testing programs. So we've got a new program that's launched with the city of Mesa, as an example, and other groups where the consumers can now come up and provide their insurance information, and they don't have to pay out of pocket. And the only way that we can offer that is because we now have we own the laboratory completely. So that's been a really interesting combination that's enabled Sun Valley to access growth opportunities that they could never access before. And of course, that drives more volume into Kai Laboratory because we have the capacity to process thousands of specimens each day.
Okay, Steve, we're gonna have to catch up with you in the next live stream because we got a bunch of questions coming in. So hopefully in about a week or so, pending some news, we're looking for some good news flow coming from you. So Steve, I want to thank you again, and we will catch up with you hopefully by next week.
Sounds great, Jack. Thank you for your time, and thank you to the audience for listening today.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, let's get ready for our next presenter here. Here we go. We got Valeo Pharma coming right up. Steve, you there?
Yeah. Hi, how are you, Jack?
Okay, fantastic. We're just gonna get this thing set up right now for you here. Okay, we got the US symbol correct. VPHIF, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Let's get this set up here. Okay. Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Superstock CEO live chat. We're back with Valeo Pharma CEO Steve Saviuk for November 12th. Steve, welcome back.
Jack, it's been a while, but it's always nice to be back with you.
Steve, yeah, definitely it's been a while. You've been very busy. The stock is moving up today pretty significantly. You've had some great news. So we got a lot of actually new people in the audience. Every time you call on, we get new crowds of people. So I think it would be good for everybody to know, like, if you can kind of explain, well, two things. One is, what is the business of Valeo Pharma? But just as importantly, kind of talk about a little bit about your background and your track record in this space, in this specialty pharma space.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. So Valeo Pharma is a pharmaceutical company based in Montreal, Canada. Our current area of operation is the Canadian market, although as our press release indicated that we put out this morning, we launched our first U.S. product with a strong possibility that there'll be others coming in the coming months and years. And we're, when you look at pharmaceutical companies, people, it's a big catch-all in the sense that there are companies that develop drugs and companies that provide services. We're a traditional pharma company business model without the risk of the research and the development side. So typically what we're doing is we're in licensing. That means acquiring the rights for certain territories, Canada in particular, to innovative drugs that are created or developed by companies in the US, in Europe, maybe in Asia also, that for one reason or another don't have the infrastructure set up in Canada. So that's in a nutshell what Valeo does. Now, as you know, we've been around since 2003. We started at that time in licensing drugs from companies that you might recognize, like Merck and Schering-Plough and Sanofi, amongst others. And the same team that built that business starting in 2003, we sold that business in 2014-15 to Valeant, which is now Bosch Health, as you know. But we didn't sell the business, we sold our products. Now we've restarted. So many people call us Valeo 2.0. We've restarted in the sense of acquiring more or new or different innovative products to launch in Canada. So it's a bit of the same team that's done it before, had a successful exit, building something that's going to be, in our view, much bigger and with greater revenues and profitability.
Okay. I think one thing which I kind of like about kind of your business model, is kind of the specialty pharma model, is, we've seen companies, it's really about the execution, and, the model is relatively, maybe I'm simple, but the model seems to be like, rinse, wash, repeat, almost, it's very scalable. You pick up a new product. Obviously, the key is execution. I mean, these things are, you put them into the market and you just keep adding new products, growing the products, replacing them as they become, obsolete or whatever. And that's it. We've seen companies scale up that way. So, and that's the model for Valeo.
Again, it's very, you've hit the nail on the head, so to speak, in the sense that it is a very scalable model. And we're not, and the timelines are generally, when I say timelines from the time we acquire the rights to a drug to the actual introduction of the drug in Canada. And most of our drugs are considered prescription drugs. So in other words, the doctor has to write a prescription for the patient to receive the drug. The timeline is relatively short compared to, let's say, a biotech company or a traditional pharma company that's starting to investigate new chemical for a specific indication, which could be 8-10 years before the product comes to market, and many, many hundreds of millions of dollars. So we've de-risked the model as much as we can. It's, as you say, it's all in the execution. So that's the registering of the product in Canada. The products still have to be registered with Health Canada. And then we have a great team in sales and marketing that it puts together programs to actually make physicians aware of the existence of the drug and the benefits of the drug. And afterwards, we have a strong regulatory team that supports things that people don't necessarily always think about, which is things like adverse events reporting and medical information. So we're a fully integrated company, and when I say integrated, what it means is really along the lines of the Pfizers and the Mercks, where all the services and all the capabilities are in-house. Versus using consultants or being more virtual in nature. So we're one of the few companies in Canada, in that sort of mid-tier group that has that business model. It's a big market, and we can handle a lot of products focusing on certain therapeutic areas. So the brain, the neurology, cancer, oncology, and then the hospital specialty market. So we don't want to be we don't play to all the audiences out there, all the therapeutic areas. It's focused, but within that focus, it's very replicable and very scalable, as you said.
Okay, so Steve, in the area that you're focused in now, let's talk about what are you doing in revenues right now, the current run rate, and what's the size of the opportunity in the three areas that you just mentioned?
Well, our current run rate, we just finished our fiscal year October 31st, and that the revenues will end up probably in the area of 8 to 8.5 million. Still being tabulated, but we exited. If you look at our last month, at about a $12 million run rate. So we had a very strong month of October, very strong fourth quarter. And that came about through organic growth, but also the addition of some new products that we launched during the course of the summer. Next year's projections, we're looking to double that 12 to 24 to 25 million. And really over the next 3 to 4 years, the objective is, 100 to 150 million dollars of revenue. Probably about 75% of that revenue projection is products that we currently have licensed rights to. So products that we will be launching in the course of 2021, I should say, and also products that are being filed with Health Canada, which will launch in 22 and potentially 23. Very exciting portfolio. We currently commercialize 9 products, and we will be adding 3 or 4 of those in the next year to grow our sales. So as you know, companies in the specialty pharma area trade on various multiples, whether multiples of EBITDA but one of the more consistent and often used the multiples is multiple on sales, and we see typically sales multiples ranging from 4 to 7. So you can imagine if we can drive our revenues into this 100+ million, 150 million, potentially higher range, and you apply those multiples. We expect that there's quite a bit of stock price appreciation that can occur over the course of the next months and years.
Okay. So wait, so basically, I'm doing some quick math. You mentioned that I don't know if my math got optimistic, but you said your goal is to do roughly, scale up to about 150 million revenues in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's within our sights, within our budgeting and our projection planning. It's always a function of what opportunities that we're working on will materialize that could drive that number higher. I mean, our intention is to become one of the key mid-tier players in Canada. You'll have the Novartises and the Mercks sort of in the at that, and Eli Lilly as an example. Pfizer as that top tier multinational companies, and then you fall to a sort of second tier, which are more regional companies. They're not in all the countries in the world. They're maybe in 2, 3, 4 countries. We're currently in Canada. It's certainly our intention is to look elsewhere also to grow as product opportunities present themselves. So yeah, I'd say the bottom end of that range is 100, and we're certainly looking for numbers that could go north of that.
Okay, so let's say based on the growth rate, right? So if you're growing at this at the same rate, I mean, you might get that 7x. I mean, who knows where the markets are going to be in a couple of years? But
yeah.
You could get potentially a 7x revenues that would give you a billion plus market cap valuation. What's the right now? I know you recently did a financing. You raised what is it, 6 million? Was it 6 million, right? You did?
Yeah, we raised 6.9 through Stifel, in Canada. It was a bought deal. The green shoe was exercised. The overallotment was exercised. We're very pleased with that. So our balance sheet is very strong. We're not looking to raise any capital in the short to medium term. We have the funding to support the launch of our existing products. And what's nice about, when you called it, wash and repeat.
Rinse, wash, repeat.
A very interesting kind of
maybe I mixed it up, but you know what I'm saying. It's the repetitive process.
Once you have your essential core commercial team, that team can handle more than one product. So as you add products, your increase in variable costs is relatively limited, relatively small. Our infrastructure from warehousing internally, again, can handle a capacity, well above that $100 million mark that we talked about. So, and that's really kind of like the high water mark or a water mark that companies look at. If you become a $100+ million revenue company, you've reached that mid-tier, and other opportunities present themselves to you, and that's what we fully expect. So, it's as the old hockey analogy sort of says, it's not where we are today, it's where we'll be tomorrow. So it's not where the puck is today. Now it's where the puck's going. And I think you have to look and say, strong team that's done it before, experienced pharma execs, good growth over the last several years. While we put our pipeline into place. Pipeline is starting to mature. When I say mature, by becoming coming out of the pipe and into sales and marketing. Great sales and marketing team, and we've done this before, and we've got I'm pretty excited about where we are today. And what lies ahead of us. We had, as I mentioned, good fourth quarter. I think first quarter is looking really good, and getting into those levels, that sales target level of the mid-20s by next year. And you never know where some of these products go. I think in terms of sales potential, they could certainly, some have the potential to exceed what our forecasts are.
Okay, Steve. So after the financing, how many shares? How many shares outstanding do you have approximately?
Currently, about 65 million shares outstanding. So at our current market price, where our market cap is about 65 million Canadian. So that's probably 50 million US. And we think very reasonable given our current revenues even. So if you look at 8 times 7, you're at 56. And just to expand on that multiple, why companies, some will be at 4 and some will be at 10, is a question of what's in your pipeline. So again, people are looking at not just what's your revenue stream currently, but what's it going to be in a year and in 2 years. And if it is going to accelerate quite quickly, they'll give you that higher multiple on your existing sales because of the fact that these additional sales or that sales growth will be there.
Okay, so the takeaway is you get to that 150 million in a couple of years. I'm running through these numbers. The stock would be let's say almost 20x from where it is now. I guess subject to you may have some additional capital raising that you have to do. Do you anticipate any kind of, do you have any kind of?
In the short to medium term, no. We do have a number of warrants that are outstanding, which we are being exercised on a almost continuous basis. So that does provide additional capital to us. But as I mentioned, in the short to medium, and when I say short to medium, certainly let's say the next 12 months, with our current product portfolio, we're not looking to go back to the market. We feel very strong with our existing cash and bank facilities and with the cash flow. I mean, we're coming from a lower revenue ramp up phase, which was EBITDA negative. We expect to be EBITDA positive in the coming months, and certainly this year, and be a generator of cash versus having the need to use cash in our operations. So that bodes well for new products that we're looking to in-license, as well as for our need to really kind of pull back from any necessary financings.
Okay, so it sounds like you're basically at an inflection point right now. That's one of the things that we like. It's always the time when it makes sense to get into stocks which have that 10x upside potential. So let's talk about the pipeline, because I guess that's really what gets institutions and more serious investors excited. Like what's what's the future prospects for the company. So maybe we could start off actually with today's news. You're entering kind of the U.S. market. You got a new product going in Canada. I don't know if I could pronounce the name here. What is it? Is it? You got to make these names easy to pronounce.
So again, when I spoke earlier about having the three main focused areas, which are the brain and cancer and the hospital. Amikacin is an injectable. It's an antibiotic used in the hospital. So this is another product that is added to our growing hospital portfolio, and our hospital portfolio is starting to generate some interesting revenues, and we continue to see it as being a solid growth area for us. We also launched a product in the U.S., our first, which is again another hospital product. So it's used for certain patients who have an issue with water retention post surgery, and it's a relatively stable market. But what's key about it for us is first product into the U.S., so recognition of Valeo as moving some geography, so to speak. Secondly, a very complex FDA process, so it's a credit to our team to be able to handle that drug and the drug submission. And we are looking, as I mentioned, with other geographies.
Okay. So this is your first product in the U.S.
That's correct.
Okay. So which is, I think it's an important milestone, because I think the perception maybe in the market might be, okay, this company is in Canada, it's somewhere, in some foreign country, nobody's heard. I mean, a lot of Americans don't know where Canada is, so Canada is a massive opportunity for special, but now you're going into the U.S. market. It's a milestone. You're launching your first product. Can you talk about your U.S. strategy? Like what else?
I think for now, our U.S. strategy is very much on a product basis, so where there's an opportunity to acquire or develop the U.S. rights to certain products. So we're more than interested to start off through more of a partnering sort of relationship, and then potentially in the future having more of our own sort of boots on the ground. There's a second product that we'll launch in the U.S. is called Hesperco, which we've advanced our filing with the FDA for the U.S. approval of Hesperco. We've received the Canadian approval of Hesperco, and Hesperco is a very interesting natural product. It's called a flavonoid. It has some strong anti-inflammatory, strong immune support properties. We launched, as I mentioned, in Canada. It'll soon be in the major retailers in Canada. We expect to be in the U.S. Some point in the next 3 to 6 months, depending on the FDA submission and approval. This is an example of a product that we have strong beliefs that it'll add significantly to our top line in the current year. As you know, we're going through a situation where the World Health Organization and just the world's health is being compromised with this pandemic, and a strong immune system is well recognized as a very important aspect of keeping us and getting us through this period of time. I think that as more data comes out about the product, which we expect to be able to clinically provide through clinical assessment, I think people will gravitate towards a relatively inexpensive $1-a-day product, which has a significant immune support and immune stimulation properties. So we're very excited about Hesperco, available online and soon online in Canada. Unfortunately, we don't ship to the U.S., but soon through U.S. retailers. But in Canada, it'll be available through the main retailers in Canada in the coming weeks.
Okay, I was talking to a guy in Vancouver. He's been taking it. He says
it has a long history. Obviously, all natural products have a long history of existence, but this specific product and the main ingredient in our product has been studied significantly by third parties that have published whether it be in vitro data or test tube data or in vivo data or data from animals or from humans, that strongly supports these immune properties or immune support properties that it has, and especially as it deals with coronavirus. The coronavirus has been around for a long time. The first main one, I guess, that people are aware of is SARS-CoV-1 or SARS. That was in 2002. Actually, the virus that's currently propagating around the world is called SARS-CoV-2. So you're looking at a very similar virus having different effects, maybe obviously stronger health issues associated with it. But essentially, there's a lot of the same building blocks, and the active ingredient in Hesperco, through scientific literature, has been shown to have a dramatic effect on catching the virus, on the replication of the virus or reproduction of the virus, and on the immune support, or inflammation suppression, which the virus not in itself causes, but your body causes in fighting the virus. So these are very interesting, scientifically supported points that we think bode well for a very, as I mentioned, very inexpensive drug. It's not a drug; it's a natural product that can be taken. That we believe is very helpful in getting through any time where your immune system is compromised, or whether it's the particular virus we're dealing with, or just a common flu, which is in many cases is a form of coronavirus.
Okay, Steve, we're gonna jump into audience questions. I'm surprised we don't have any questions popping up on the screen yet. Usually we got like, probably looks like about close to 200 people across online right now across all the channels. So let me just ask you a few questions. I'll finish my questions and maybe we'll get some audience questions. Right now you've been focused pretty much on in licensing, bringing in existing products, and then you put them into the regulatory approval, the whole thing you got to do. But have you or do you have plans to acquire existing products that are on the market, other specialty products, let's say, that might be on the market in the US? You can, because that's an active, marketplace.
I think the in-licensing, when I say in-licensing, which it means acquiring the rights to a certain product for Canada, there's various aspects. It could be a new drug, so that's not even on the US market yet, is being filed with the FDA, or the approval is not yet received from the FDA or the European Medicines Agency. So that's one scenario. Sometimes there are existing drugs, and a good example of those would be two drugs we launched in the fourth quarter that actually contributed up to 20% of our fourth quarter sales. One is called Yondelis. So this is it's a cancer drug for a very rare form of cancer. It sells in the US, sells in Canada. Johnson & Johnson is the US marketer of the drug in Canada. We are the Canadian marketer of it. Again, this is an existing drug. It's been around 5-6 years in the marketplace, and we were able to get the Canadian rights for it. Another is known as Amatop. This is a hospital product. It's what's known as anesthetic. So it's a product that is used prior to certain types of surgeries. So it's topical, helps with the numbing the skin prior to maybe a simple procedure or what have you. This was a Smith & Nephew product. So Smith & Nephew is, maybe we recognize, one of the top medical device companies in the world. And we have acquired the Canadian rights to that product. So that's an example of existing products. So those are essentially the two main buckets of products that we get or that we seek are innovative products that are being launched in other countries or will be soon launched in other countries, and sometimes existing products where they might have kind of become maybe smaller for some of the bigger companies, and they need a little no sales and marketing have been done on these products in the last several years. We can take them over, put them through our commercial activities, and actually grow those sales. So it's but the key is that the de-risking is not investing in research and development. We know where we're strong at. We're strong regulatory wise. We're strong commercially. And those are the two areas that we want to focus on. So clinical development, which is a typical phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, where outcomes are uncertain. We follow it. Once the results are received, that's when we want to enter into discussions with a licensing partner. And we're in discussions with a number of U.S. listed specialty pharma companies. We're in a number of discussions with European companies, and neither of which have the infrastructure to set up in Canada. So we're a logical extension of them in terms of bringing these important drugs to the Canadian public.
Okay, we got some questions coming in now. Yazan is asking, what type of margins do you make on these drugs, and any issue with getting product placements?
Okay, well, the first part of that question is the margins run. The pharmaceutical industry is one where most of the cost comes in developing drugs, and then the actual manufacturing of drugs becomes relatively expensive. It's in many cases it's synthetic chemistry. So, on a scale, the absolute cost becomes quite low. So our margins will run in the area of 50 to 70%. Probably hitting that midpoint of 60 is where most of our, the average margin would come in. I'm not quite sure about that second question about product placement. If it relates, we're considered a traditional pharma company. So the model that we have is we visit physicians with a drug that has some unique properties, some benefits to over an existing standard of care that the patients that physician is seeing are being treated with. So for us, it's trying to demonstrate and illustrate to the physician the advantages of our drug over what might be an existing drug. In some cases, there's no drug for a specific case, and we're talking Yondelis, which I mentioned earlier. We are selling in Canada. It's for a very rare form of cancer when there's really no other therapy that can be used once you've for the treatment of this particular type of cancer. It's not first line. So in other words, you've got this specific form of cancer. You'll be treated with maybe a traditional drug. You fail that treatment. You go to a secondary drug, fail that treatment, then you'll come to our drug. So we're dealing with a relatively small subset, and the results have been good. It's not total remission. We're not talking remission. We're talking extending life, quality of life. So again, very unique, scientifically challenging drugs that so our sales team have a lot of depth of pharma knowledge, and we pride ourselves on being a very good partner in Canada for accessing physicians and getting the so-called message across about the benefits of a drug.
Okay, we got Alex asking a couple questions. What medication in your portfolio is the top revenue generator for you?
Currently, it's changing rapidly, and certainly, if you ask me this question in 6 months or 9 months from now, the answer will be different. But currently, our top-selling drug is morphine. It's a morphine tablet. So it's more in the hospital market for pain management. So again, we segment most of our products, not all. I mean, you're going to have some products like Hesperco is a bit of an outlier. It's not a hospital product. It's not a neurological product. It's not an oncological product. But it's still part of within our capabilities. But morphine, it plays a big role in the hospital, both in the hospital and then when patients leave the hospital for pain management. As right now, our biggest selling drug.
Okay. He's also asking, do you have any medications targeting diabetes management?
Unfortunately not. It's not one of our, there's many therapeutic areas that a company can address. You have to just pick, so you can't be master of all of them. So we've selected the 3 that we've selected for many reasons. Sometimes it's the number of physicians, sometimes it's the number of the drugs that we have access to, or we can actually in-license. And these 3 areas, we're building more and more expertise in them, which it's like when you talked about wash and rinse and repeat, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. As you develop a knowledge base in, let's say, neurology, the companies that have drugs that are interesting for neurology or for various brain ailments are more likely to come to you because you've developed kind of the de facto expertise in this area. You know the doctors, the key doctors that are around. You've got knowledge of the actual science, and have the sales reps that are dedicated to calling on these physicians and getting and informing them about the benefits of these drugs. So it's important to focus. Unfortunately, it's a long answer to say no, we're not in diabetes.
Okay, so Gerald is asking, I guess, he understands that you're going into the U.S. market. Do you have any European exposure, or maybe he's asking, do you have plans for entering the European market?
Our European exposure right now is more inbound. In other words, we have a number of partnerships with European companies. I can give you a couple examples of Zambon in Italy, which is the manufacturer and the developer of our Parkinson's drug that we launched just over a year ago. So it's mostly products coming from Europe into Canada. Do we think that can change over time? It's not going to change this year, but it's certainly over the course of the next couple of years. We have some ideas and interest in taking this Canadian-centric company and giving it a bit more regional expansion. That's definitely something that we are willing and wanting to pursue.
I mean, but the Canadian market is still a massive market. I mean, it's multi-billions of dollars.
The Canadian pharma market is about a $30 billion market. So again, even taking a small percentage of that market, we can become a very sizable company. It would be more opportunities to take necessarily, let's say, the rights to a drug and get rights not just in Canada, but in other jurisdictions also, that could pull us into some of these other jurisdictions.
Okay, we got a question. How do you plan on marketing Hesperco once it's available through retailers and Amazon?
Amazon is actually, we've shipped to Amazon, and I checked earlier today, and it's not on the site yet, but we expect it to be on the site in the coming days, so you'll be able to buy it on Amazon Canada. We have active discussions with all large, sort of pharmaceutical retailers in Canada. And we're just working out the details in terms of shipping product to them and supporting them with what I think will be a pretty extensive marketing program. There'll be a lot of awareness about the drug, but it's not, sorry, I keep calling it a drug. It has drug-like qualities, but it's a natural product. So it's not, I don't want to get in trouble or get anyone in trouble by calling it a drug. It has a lot of interesting science behind it, as I mentioned. And I would kind of, there's things I can't say today about it that, I might be able to say in 3 or 4 days, but all I can say is this product is not only going to be clinically supported, which is going to be, I think, very interesting. We believe that it needs some exposure and actual science, additional science which we're willing to support. But as far as retailers are concerned, all the main ones from Shoppers to Jean Coutu, London Drugs, what have you, they should have the product in the coming weeks. And as I mentioned, it's about $1 a day, so relatively inexpensive. And I think at this time of the year, regardless of the various viruses that are going around, it's a very interesting product to take to help, again, your immune system. I know we had one customer friend of ours called and said, he's been taking the product, thought he had felt the cold coming on, then those symptoms passed over. It's very anecdotal, but I mean, I'm getting that type of comments back from people. But I think it's a very, during the fall and over the winter, our immune system is attacked because the cold, we get tired. The days are shorter, less sunshine. I think taking Hesperco should be a part of anyone's regime for trying to stay healthy over the coming months.
Okay, so Steve, we're probably going to have you back maybe in a week or two, where maybe you could do like a full presentation with the slides, which would show the pipeline and what do you have coming up, because I think that's key, and I think it'll be easier for investors to kind of visualize the whole pipeline, because that's that would be important if they can visualize the whole pipeline. But maybe if we could kind of let's see if we can wrap up on 2 questions. One is what kind of news flow can we expect from Valeo? What kind of milestones do you have coming up over the next let's call it a couple months, like 2-3 months?
I think we closed our financing in September, and essentially news flow sort of I would say, dried up or has been sparse since. I think yesterday's release or this morning's release, is the beginning of what we think is going to be quite an active period of information that we need to share with the market from a regulatory perspective, and that we want to share with the market from a knowledge and an appreciation perspective. So it should be quite active over the next, at least as far as I see, the next quarter, let's say. During that quarter, Hesperco is going to be a big part of the news, and the launch of Hesperco and some of the other scientific data we might be able to share with Hesperco. There's a couple other product announcements we hope to make in terms of approvals and then ultimately launches. We do have 2 products that are being ready for first half of next year launch that have been approved by Health Canada. So it's a busy time at our place in terms of coordinating the commercial activities and also looking at the in-licensing activities where we're working on a number of different on a different fronts. So as I said, it's Valeo today. I think our financial statements look best they've looked in the last 5 years since the sale to Aventis, and looking at that pipeline and saying where can Valeo be in 2-3 years, and it's a lot of it is the products, as I mentioned, we have, and what could be even supplemental to that is some of the products that we are in discussions with to in-license. So we have the objective to becoming that mid-tier company, coming to $100 million plus revenue company, and really being a force in bringing innovative medicines to Canadians, and also to look at some geographic expansion, whether that be in the U.S., Europe, or both, is certainly in the planning stages, and as our first launch in the U.S. demonstrated, more than just planning stages, in the execution stages. We're really excited about this first new product is selling. And now Hesperco, we are in discussions with a couple of retailers in the U.S., specialty retailers, about the product, and I think it's it bodes well for the future of Valeo Pharma.
Okay, Steve. Okay, so let's kind of wrap up. A final note. A favorite question we always ask here is, in your opinion, top 3 reasons for investors to consider Valeo Pharma today.
I would say business model. In licensing business model means revenues quicker rather than development model. Second, I think valuation. Valuation is very conservative to where our sales are today, but certainly where our sales are going to be this year and in the coming years. And the team that's done it before. I mean, we've been at this for over 20 years. We had a successful exit. And I'm not suggesting we're going to be exiting again this time. That was sort of something that came out of left field when Valiant approached us and offered to buy our company. They did so on 2 separate occasions, and finally we decided to sell our assets because we were moving in these new therapeutic areas. We were more of a dermatology hospital product company before, and now we've moved into the other areas that I've mentioned. So strong team, attractive share price, good business model, full pipeline, revenue growth. I mean, these are all the boxes I think that an investor wants to tick, and certainly the ones we keep our eye on in terms of what are the drivers that'll make our company successful. One thing that I have not mentioned and is very important is every individual working for our company is a shareholder. We currently, management and the board still owns between 65 and 70% of the shares. We've got a lot of our own wealth or money invested in the company. So we feel we're very much aligned with our investee shareholders that, our objective is to build revenue and a profitable and valuable pharma company, and the share price will take care of itself. And I think that's what your viewers want to see, that also is, that we're aligned. We're not working for salaries. We're working to build share price, because that's where our sort of end point is, if you will, our real objective. And I think your clients or your viewers have the same objective to get into a share when it's a company when it's more in its infancy, and then take advantage of all the hard years of work that's been put in, and hopefully exit at a much higher price.
That's the whole idea. So I'm glad, Steve, you realize what the audience is looking for. Yeah, they're looking to get in, you know, at $1 and get out at 10. You know, hopefully, hopefully as soon as possible. I mean, no offense. I mean, they could do it, you know, in 3 months. That'd be great.
Timing is always more of a art than a science, I suppose. But you know, the thing that if you take care of the little things like building a pipeline, building revenue, increasing profitability, I think those get reflected in the share price.
It's important because it's essentially you have a system. It's a system in place. It's not like you're expecting it's really you have like a very methodical way of building this.
There's a criteria for drug selection. Is not haphazard at all, and you know, as much as we have 9 products with a pipeline of about another 7 or 8, I think, in development currently, that means we've looked at maybe 200 plus drugs, and for many reasons turned them down. And there's obviously many reasons why we don't think that they're a good fit for us. One of them could be that they're just not in one of the therapeutic areas that we want to focus on, so they're better suited for another company that's got to focus on those areas. Cardiology might be an example that we can use. So it's you know, you stick to what you do best, and that's where we, you know, that's what our motto is, and what our focus is.
Fantastic. Okay, Steve, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you all on the next live stream.
Great, thank you.